surprise people that climate change is being connected to global security. Explain that link to us.
Good morning, Isabel. Thank you very much for having me. No, not at all. I think the links are becoming clearer all the time. Conflicts are becoming more complex. They're becoming more protracted. And increasingly, they're playing out in places already affected by climate change. So places like Yemen, places like northeastern Nigeria. So increasingly, we're seeing an understanding at the kind of international security level that durable peace and security cannot be achieved without addressing climate change.
Well, that's exactly it. But is there anything that can be done to mitigate these risks other than slowing down climate change?
Yes. So to understand what to do about it, we need to understand how climate change is affecting conflict. So climate change doesn't in and of itself create new conflicts, but rather it deepens existing vulnerabilities, things like poverty, inequality, weak governance. So it erodes people's capacity to cope with these risks. So in places that are already fragile, places like the countries around Lake Chad, it reduces their ability to cope with the risks that they're already facing, and this increases the chances of instability. So one of the ways of addressing conflict or helping to build peace is by helping people to adapt with climate change so that they're not pushed closer to that tipping point whereby they're no longer able to cope with the stresses and risks that are already present in the fragile context that they're living in, these things like poverty and inequality. So adaptation alongside these developmental and conflict drivers can actually help to build peace or prevent conflict.
OK, well, this is obviously one of the focuses of the Munich Security Conference, where there's going to be scores of world leaders. What key issues do you hope they're going to be addressing, and what do you want to come out of this conference?
So I'm delighted that climate change and security is on the agenda once again. And in Munich, they'll be looking at places like the Sahel, where climate change is doing just this. It's exacerbating these existing vulnerabilities, making it harder for people to cope. So solutions have to look at climate change and conflict together. So we no longer look at climate change just as an environmental issue, but as a peace and security issue. So if we want to see progress towards conflict prevention, towards reducing the ever-increasing humanitarian crises that we're seeing today in terms of human cost, financial cost, we need to get better at understanding the way in which climate change affects these peace and security risks through better risk assessment, through risk-informed responses to security and conflict risks, and addressing conflict and climate change together in the way that we tackle peace and security. So this is going beyond just military responses to conflict towards looking at how climate and security interact and addressing those root causes